Remember, an injured Duck out since the spring that could be back in November. Plus, my complete scouting report of all things Wisconsin and full preview and prediction of Ducks versus Badgers set to take place tomorrow night inside the walls of Autzen Stadium. It's a cheese war here on That Show Out West.
This place has everything. In fact, the grass is damn green in Eugene.
That performance deserves a holy wallawa.
It's a feeling you cannot explain.
This place is louder than any other venue in the Big Ten.
This program is staged to compete and to win championships.
Welcome to the Big Ten, Oregon.
And welcome to That Show Out West. For That Team Out West, I'm Ted LaRue. I wanted to begin today's program talking about a non-football, non-Ducks, non-Oregon versus Wisconsin topic. And no, it is not about the head coach of the Portland Trailblazers. Oof, there's a lot going on there in the biggest stories surrounding sports. It seems very far removed from the days of Mike Dunleavy roaming the sidelines, Damon Stoudemire running the point, Rasheed Wallace down low, even the prime and heyday of one Damian Lillard before he came back to Portland before this past week. There's a lot to figure out there in that league and what's going on there, and the biggest story in sports right now. It's not that topic that I wanted to begin this program with. It's maybe about my favorite food, and probably one that I shouldn't eat much of anymore, but I want to talk about cheese. As a lot of you know, I was born and raised in the state of Wisconsin. On their license plates, it says America's Dairyland. They are very proud of the great cheese and dairy products from their state. And I feel like I'm in a unique position. Having grown up and had a lot of cheese from a lot of different places within the state of Wisconsin, and a lot of it is really good. But this summer, as a lot of you know, I was able to go out to Oregon for 2 weeks. And one of the places that I was able to stop at was the Tillamook Creamery. I saw Oregon Homer post about this out there on Twitter. He said, hey, not only do we have the better football team, but we have the better cheese as well. And I provided my thoughts, and I'm going to share it with you right now. There's a lot of really good, really tasty cheese from Wisconsin. I have never had a more flavorful cheese than I did out there in Tillamook, Oregon. And then I got some at the grocery store when I came back to kind of have with my family, and they kind of looked at me and be like, oh, this is damn good. This is really good. I think it's the best cheese. I think it's the most flavorful cheese I've ever had in my time on planet Earth. And when we want a little bit of a treat, we go out to the grocery store here in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. We get ourselves a delicacy, some Tillamook cheese, some Tillamook ice cream as well. So it's there's one Target in the area that has a bountiful harvest of flavors that is Tillamook. A lot of other grocery stores have this and that as well, but it is absolutely elite. So it's hard to argue. It's very hard to argue with that tweet over there. Oregon, you should be proud of the flavorful dairy products and the absolute shrine to the dairy industry that is the Tillamook Creamery out there on the coast. Okay, now let's get into some football talk. But before we talk about Ducks versus Badgers and some big storylines, I want to talk about the youth of the nation, the youth of Duck Nation right now. These freshmen, of course, I've raved about it. A lot of other people have raved about the DeCorian Moores, the Brandon Finneys, the Jordan Davisons, and the De'Aaron Hills, and what they've been able to do, the instant impact that they've been able to make on the field. But I've also been very impressed at what they've been able to do in the presser room as well. Not only within Dan Lanning's program, but a lot of programs across college football don't let true freshmen speak in front of the media. They got to get a little bit more mature, so they don't get tripped up by any questions, give good answers to the media, and don't give answers that will, paint the university maybe in a bad light. They need to be trained a little bit, media trained a little bit, but these freshmen are so mature right now. What we've seen those four guys that I mentioned before. We've seen them all in front of the media, De'Aaron Hill and Jordan Davison specifically. this last week, and I've just been so impressed how calm, cool, collected, and poised that they have been in answering the questions from all of these reporters. Now, getting this type of talent on campus is one thing, but I think developing them this early into being good decision makers and sound players on the field, and also good decision makers in terms of their answers in the media room, you got to give this Oregon staff a lot of credit for what these young guys look like on the field, and also sound like they're doing a tremendous amount of developing, not only in their physical traits, but I think also in their mental traits right now. Let's talk about guys that aren't enrolled at Oregon just yet. Let's talk about recruiting and the class of 2026, dipping a little bit into the class of 2027 as well. Now, remember the summer when Oregon struck out on a couple of inside linebackers, and that was the one really point of emphasis as we went into the fall. Man, Oregon needs a linebacker to join Tristan Phillips in this class right now. And, well, I've got some good news, or at least it's trending towards good news. Braylon Hodge, a four-star linebacker of Colorado, went to the same high school as one Blake Purchase, has now been on 3 RPM predicted to land with the Ducks. That according to Steve Wiltfong and then Greg Smith over there at Rivals. He took an official visit for the Indiana game that was coming off of a Michigan State decommitment. The Michigan Wolverines and the Texas Longhorns are also being considered. So if Oregon can close the deal amongst those other two significant programs, that is going to be a big win here as we venture ever closer to the early signing period in December for Oregon and the future of this Oregon defense. It's also going to be a decent-sized visit weekend on campus for this game. Tommy Toffee, of course, the four-star offensive lineman from the Bay Area, is going to be on campus. Kendra Harrison, the absolute freak of a five-star tight end, is going to be here. The aforementioned Tristan Phillips, Xavier Larice, and 2027 defensive lineman Cam Pritchett. Those are the committed players. A couple of uncommitted 2027s will be here. Fourth-star athlete out of Akron, Ohio, Brayton Feister, as well as Hayden Stepp, a high four-star corner out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Not only Las Vegas, Nevada, but West Coast powerhouse Bishop Gorman. What do they got in the water out there, man? 6'3". Now, he's a little bit smaller out there at 175, but they breed some tall defensive backs out there at Bishop Gorman. Of course, you got 6'5" Jet Washington already committed in this class, or I should say, the 26 class, because Stepp is a 27, but they've got some tall, long, athletic defensive backs certainly out there in Vegas. Holy Wallawa. No, it's not Monday. It's not Tuesday. It's Friday. So why are we saying Holy Wallawa? Because of the news that was dropped. Yes, I'm really glad I didn't do a show on Thursday, by the way. The news that was dropped on Thursday from one Pete Nakos of On3. He said, in recent weeks, Evan Stewart is ahead of schedule recovering from a torn patellar tendon, could be back at some time in November. And then he posted a TikTok put out by Mr. Stewart. He's moving and he's grooving. And he is looking like an athlete, folks. I think when he got injured, I tend to venture on the safe side to be like, okay, this appears to maybe be a season-ending injury. I didn't want to get maybe my hopes up too much, but this, I couldn't help but get excited by hearing this news. And I kind of listened to some interviews recently. I think one press conference and two was a one-on-one interview with somebody talking about, when Dan Lanning, was talking about Evan Stewart. And kind of some of the things you said, if you read between the lines, I think there was some excitement that you could see Evan Stewart back by the end of the year. And now this report and the TikTok that was posted by Stewart really signal that deep threat, twitchy athlete on the outside could once again be a part of the Ducks offense when all is said and done this season. Now, I think what everybody wants to know right off the bat, when is number 7? When's he going to be there? When's he going to be there? When's he going to be on the field? He's not going to be back for the Wisconsin game. Okay, and I talked about this on the last show. Okay, if he's not back for the Wisconsin game, it still means that he can utilize his red shirt and he still has the ability to come back next season. If he goes out and he balls out right now, Is he going to be in a position to prove that he's come off of his injury really well for those in the NFL draft, or can he come back and run it back for one more year? That's obviously a decision that he's going to have to make, and obviously one that we don't know the answer to right now. So after the Wisconsin game, you got a bye, and then you go on the road to Iowa. That could be a decent amount of like a 2-week or so time frame for Evan Stewart to be back, but my gut's telling me that might be a little bit early. No inside information on this end, but Minnesota on Friday night seems like it could be an option. That's a home game at Autzen. It's right smack dab in the middle of the month. But man, could you imagine if he comes back for the USC game? I mean, that's already the most anticipated home game for Oregon this season. And have his return on top of it, man, that crowd would be juiced upon juiced. I mean, with all the things that would go into that matchup on that Saturday, November 22nd. But for me, I don't know how much it matters when he comes back. Because for Evan Stewart, it's not about the regular season. It's not even about the calendar year 2025. It's about the calendar year 2026 for me. And it's about the very first day in the calendar year of 2026. Remember, in the very first day of the calendar year 2025, he was not able to go in that Rose Bowl against Ohio State. But we'll kind of connect and we'll kind of come back to that storyline in just a moment. Oregon can go out there. They can beat Iowa. They can beat Minnesota. They can beat USC. They can beat Washington without Evan Stewart. It's not like they need Stu back to have that extra weapon on the outside to be able to beat one of these teams remaining in the month of November. And if they are able, like, they're going to be Vegas favorites in all of those games. And if they go 11-1, and if they do not get a top 4 seed, even if they're playing the 11 or 12 seed, that's likely going to be a group of 5 team. Like if Oregon's the 5 and they're playing against the 12 seed, or if Oregon is the 6. They're like number 6 right now. And I don't think everybody in front of them is certainly going to go undefeated the rest of the way. I think Oregon's in a very favorable situation to maybe get a first-round bye. I know maybe there's some Duck fans that don't love hearing that because, hey, won a home game at Autzen Stadium, and we know what happened with the bye and the long layoff last season. But I think the fact that I'm trying to hit home is Oregon's going to be just fine in these games prior to a potential college football playoff quarterfinal on January 1st. I think what you need to be able to do, you need to be able to get him reps. So whether it's 2 games in the regular season, whether it's 3 games, no matter what it is, you need to get him reps. He's not going to go out there. Like, I would really temper your expectations. If you're expecting, whether it's the Minnesota game or USC game, if you're expecting him to come back and all of a sudden he's putting up 6 catches, 120 and a score, that just let's dial it down a little bit. Remember when Noah Whittington came off of an injury? It took him like half the season to be able to get back into form. So maybe we should have at least similar type of expectations here for Evan Stewart. It's all about seeing what he can do, not only health-wise, but where he really blends into this offense. This offense in Evan Stewart's absence has looked really damn good. Credit to Dante Moore, credit to this offensive line, and a big credit, of course, to Malik Benson to really stepping up into the role that would have been Evan Stewart's role this season. So getting him that time to figure out how he progresses, how he can do in the regular season is more important than him going out and putting up big numbers, to be brutally honest with you. I think where once you start getting to the college football playoff quarterfinals, that's where the competition gets better. And I think now that's where you want to see Evan Stewart be at full go. And I think that's got to be the aim of this coaching staff. And I think this has got to be the plan for this coaching staff, certainly going forward. And it kind of leads me in to my next point. Where does Evan Stewart fit within this offense? I said before, I mean, this is kind of like I don't want to say a perfect scenario. Like, you never want to see anybody hurt. But seeing Evan Stewart go down and then being able to see Gary Bryant Jr. step up, Malik Benson step up into some of these bigger roles, and then on the back half of the season, you have Evan Stewart back when it really matters. Now everybody's level because the opportunities have been elevated for some of these other wide receivers in this room. They've gotten more opportunities and reps than they would have if 7 was available. And now you have 7 coming back. And now it's just like, what do we do with all these weapons? I think when it comes to where he fits right now, the beauty of Stewart's skill set, he's a twitchy athlete. He's extremely fast. He can get over the top. You watch a lot of his highlights from last season. It's him getting over the top of the defense and creating big plays from passes from Dylan Gabriel. You can line him up on the outside. You can also line him up on the inside. You saw him make big plays from both positions. I think when you look to last season specifically, he was the top outside wide receiver talent-wise on that team. Now, is that his best role? I think that could be up for debate. Coming into this season, I said, a few other people said, what if we move Evan Stewart to the slot? What if we move Evan Stewart to the inside of the formation? Because you got an extremely talented outside wide receiver already into Corian Moore. That could just add just another elite weapon now in a different spot on the field on the inside. That makes it more difficult for maybe some of these slot corners and these nickels. And it's just, it can be a big mismatch like we maybe saw last year with somebody like Tez Johnson. Boy, by the way, Tez is doing an outstanding job with the Buccaneers. You'd love to see it. Shout out to the Ducks Rising podcast and the great alumni corner that they did with Tez. But the beauty about Evan Stewart is you can put him in any sort of combination. You can put Dak on the outside, you can put Stewart on the outside, and then you can put Gary Bryant on the inside. You can put Dak on the outside, you can put Eastu in the middle, you can put Malik Benson on the outside. But man, I tell you what about adding Stewart to this offense. You got speed on top of speed on top of speed in Tracktown, USA. We've seen what Malik Benson can do getting over the top. We've seen what DeCorian Moore, who in my opinion hasn't even scratched the surface, what he can do getting over the top. And now you add in somebody like Evan Stewart, and you got a quarterback that can make all the throws in Dante Moore that can get them the football. The biggest takeaway I have is you look all over the field and you've got deep threat on top of deep threat on top of deep threat. So we'll see. I'm very intrigued to see where he's going to be plugged in. I can't say specifically, but here's the thing. He comes in, some reps are going to go down for some other guys. Bryant's been good. Gary Bryant Jr. has been good coming out of the slot. We've seen Jeremiah McClellan kind of pop a little bit at times. It is a great problem to have right now in Eugene, Oregon. Absolutely nobody is doubting that. And I didn't even talk about Kenyon Sadiq sometimes working out of the slot as well. It's all about playing your best and getting healthy in the month of November. And that's what's happening for the Ducks right now. Another guy who got hurt during fall camp that's worth kind of keeping an eye on is also Trey McNutt. Now, true freshman, hasn't played college football. You look at the safety position, Flowers and Thieneman got the starting spots on lockdown. We've seen Lopa. We've seen Woodyard back there. I don't know where Trey McNutt would really fit into that rotation, but something worth keeping an eye on as we continue on. Boy, I cannot wait to see what this offense could look like adding a weapon like Evan Stewart. Man, you thought this offense was good. We could turn this thing up to 11. All right, let's talk Oregon, Wisconsin. And the first thing that we talk about on these Friday shows is uniforms. And folks, we've got a tribute between the connection between the University of Oregon and the Grateful Dead. Now, I am not a Deadhead myself. You might have been able to put that together, certainly, but I certainly respect all of the Deadheads out there. Whether you're a Deadhead or whether you're a Tedhead, we've certainly come to the right place to talk Oregon football. The Grateful Dead played more than 20 shows at the University of Oregon, played at Autzen Stadium 10 times from 1974 to 1994, including 9 times from 1987 to 1994. They played 2 shows on back-to-back days in 1990, 1993, and 1994. Grateful Dead archivist David Lemieux described the university became the band's home away from home. I love these tributes. I love the Shoe Duck tribute to Phil Knight earlier in the year, and I certainly love this tribute to what it means to the University of Oregon. And when I look at these uniforms, so when I heard tie-dye and the Grateful Dead tribute, I thought, are they going to do a complete tie-dye uniform? That would be crazy. I think it would be a little bit busy. I'm glad they went this route with the all blacks, and then the numbers are tie-dye, and then you put the Oregon version of the Grateful Dead logo, in this case, the Grateful Duck, out there on one of the shoulders. And then you've got on the back of the helmet, you've got an O that's also in tie-dye as well. And I love the little hint of the Dancing Ducks, paying tribute to the Dancing Bears, of course, of the Grateful Dead. And it leads into my uniform power rankings. This was an interesting one because, like the shoe duck, that one had a lot of meaning behind it. I really like the ones that have a story. I fancy myself a storyteller myself, so I kind of gave this one maybe a little bit of a boost considering that, and considering the tribute, and considering the historical connection between the band and the university. I've got this one at number 5, slightly ahead of the Stormtrooper that we saw last week. These are both one-color uniforms, if you want to call it that. Of course, the all whites and the Stormtrooper. This is an all black, but I like the touch of the tie-dye within the numbers. I like, all the little hints of the Grateful Dead uniform. So I'm going to put this one slightly above the Stormtrooper. This one sits at number 5 for me. So to recap it, number 1 is the shoe duck. Number 2 is the green, black, green that they wore against Indiana. Number 3 is the yellow, white, yellow that they wore against Northwestern. Number 4 is the mummy duck that they had on the road in the whiteout against Penn State. Number 5 is the Grateful Duck. Number 6 is the Stormtrooper. Number 7 is the more traditional looking green with the yellow helmet and the green wings that we saw against Montana State. Is number 8 is the all greens that we saw against the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Of course, Oregon is going to be donning those great-looking tie-dye uniforms against the Wisconsin Badgers on Saturday night. And now it's time to know the foe with this week's TSOW Scouting Report. The Badgers enter this game 2-5. Now, they won their first 2 games of the regular season, beating Miami of Ohio 17-0 at Camp Randall, and then starting a little bit slow against Middle Tennessee, and then pulling away late. Ever since then, it has been an offer, losing big to Alabama in Tuscaloosa, and then running the table, well, not in the best of ways, not in the right column, certainly, for Wisconsin in Big Ten play. Luke Fickell is in his 3rd year as head coach of the Badgers. He has a 15-18 record, and almost every single Badger fan wants him gone. He is on the hottest of hot seats right now. It has been trending in a downward direction ever since Fickell took the head coaching job here in Madison, Wisconsin. Athletic director Chris McIntosh over there at UW put out I guess maybe a vote of confidence, a letter to the fan base saying that, hey, he still supports Coach Fickell right now, but says, hey, we need to invest more money into the program. I'm not sure if that's the issue, my man. But that's kind of the status of where things are in Madison, Wisconsin right now. This is the worst team in the Big Ten ever since UCLA, made their coaching change. Maybe Wisconsin should take a little bit of a hint from that. But ever since the Bruins made the change, they've certainly vaulted up the Big Ten power rankings. And Wisconsin, the way they fared, is at the absolute bottom. And we're going to talk about more of why they are where they're at right now. But they are truly 18 out of 18 in this league. Jeff Grimes is in his 1st year as offensive coordinator, coming over from Kansas. Mike Tressel is in his 3rd year as defensive coordinator. He came over with Luke Fickell from Cincinnati to Wisconsin a trio of years ago. Here's the thing about the Badgers, specifically offensively. They have no identity. They don't have direction forward. They have no future. I know that may be grim. I know that may be bleak, but it is the absolute truth, folks. Ever since Luke Fickell came in, it has been just this constant battle, most of the time week by week, trying to figure out who they're going to be that specific week. When Fickell was hired 3 years ago, they brought in Phil Longo as the offensive coordinator. He was coming over from North Carolina at the time, and he had a background in the air raid offense, the complete opposite of what traditional Wisconsin football has been known for, and it failed. It failed. I think for Wisconsin fans at the time, it was like they kind of like had a very like, oh, okay, that's a little bit interesting. It seems fun for us to maybe put up more yards and be able to put up more points a little bit. But in the back of your head, you kind of knew Wisconsin had decades of tradition and decades of identity and decades of success with having big, beefy farm boys on the offensive line and running downhill. And now completely stripping away that identity and coming with something completely new, something that this roster was not recruited to have, was going to be difficult. And it proved to be difficult. You were never going to be able to recruit the type of speed, the number of wide receivers, the type of quarterback talent to Wisconsin that was needed to fully run that offense. And now you're years behind. This year, it was more about starting from square one in a year where Luke Fickell needed to show progress within his football team. Now, I'll say this about the offense this year, and Jeff Grimes had this background coming in. They have run the football a lot more. 58% of the plays have been rushes this season. So that's a step in the right direction, I think, for Wisconsin. But here's the thing, folks. You can run the ball until you're red and white looking like Bucky Badger in the face. But if you can't block, you're going to have problems. And right now, the Badgers can't block up front. And that, maybe more than anything, was the identity of Wisconsin Badgers football for a long time. They are 116th in the country, according to Pro Football Focus, as far as their run blocking grades are concerned. And that game, that early loss against Maryland, which was their first conference game of the year at home at Camp Randall, really was an eye-opener for many different reasons for this Badger team, but specifically in the inefficiencies running the ball. Look, Maryland's not stout up front. I mean, give all the credit in the world for Terps for playing a good game. But if you can't run the ball against Maryland, you're not going to be able to run the ball against anybody on the remainder of your schedule. They ran the ball 42 times. I guess credit for keeping it going. Try again, right? But only resulted in 61 yards. A lot of that was negative yardage from Danny O'Neal. But their two top backs, Dylan Jones and Darian Dupree, ran the ball 20 times for just 72 yards. Folks, that's not good enough. Not good enough against a team like Maryland. You can run, but if you can't block, your offense is going to hide from everybody. Let's just put it that way. Now, their offensive line has been getting better in terms of pass protection. They've allowed 17 sacks this year, but only 4 of them have come in their last 3 games. So it's better, but it's still not great. And I'm not trying to use this next point as maybe an excuse for one Luke Fickell. But man, every single year their starting quarterback has gotten injured. This year's transfer starting quarterback, by the way, has gotten injured. This year's no different. And it's not just the quarterback position. I mean, this is a team that has not fared well with injuries during the Luke Fickell era, but this year it is bad. Before the season even started, a 4-star offensive tackle that they got out of Pennsylvania that they felt really good about a couple of years ago, he was going to be a second-year guy coming in, Kevin Haywood. He got hurt before the season has even started. So now you're starting from behind square one, from behind the starting line, so to speak, as far as the offensive line is concerned. They shift Riley Mullman, who is at right tackle, over to left tackle, and then they got a freshman in Everson Mandel over at right tackle. I covered him in high school football here in the Twin Cities, by the way. Shout out to Irondale High School over there in that program. But it's been tough. They've had other injuries on the offensive line. Jake Renfro is a center that's been in this program for a few years. He went down after the Alabama game, recently came back for the Iowa game. So they've had just musical chairs up front all year long, and maybe that has something to do with their lack of rushing success so far this season. You got to talk about Billy Edwards. They brought him as a transfer quarterback coming over from Maryland. I mean, he goes down right away in the first game of the season. He tried to come back against his former school against Maryland, but he just wasn't able to sustain it, that injury. So I'm not sure what the future holds for one Billy, but the quarterback play, which we'll get to in just a minute, has been subpar. Let's be nice about it since Billy has left. I mean, you just keep going down with injuries. Darian Dupree went down in the Iowa game, didn't play last week against Ohio State. He was a big part of the rushing attack last year as well. Dylan Jones, that other great running back, he went down against Ohio State. He didn't return. Like, they're just dropping like flies. You're down to your third running back in Cade Yakimelli right now. I mean, you look at Preston Zachman, who was back there at safety, a starting safety, even dating back to last year. He hasn't played since the Alabama game. So, I mean, Christian Allegro, it sounds like he'll be fine, but he busted up his arm and he just clubbed it up and played last week. Like, everybody's getting hurt. Everybody's getting hurt for this Badger team. Maybe Luke Fickell has just some weird injury voodoo over this team in Madison or something right now, because it's every year this team just can't stay healthy. Let's talk about quarterback play. Without the aforementioned Billy Edwards, it has been a challenge, to say the least. They brought in Danny O'Neal, who was a transfer from San Diego State, but he hasn't been very good. And like, they got this weird thing where Danny's like not on the injury report. And we're pretty sure he's still healthy. And we're pretty sure he's still the best quarterback available on this team. Yet they're going with Hunter Simmons ever since the Michigan game, who's an FCS transfer coming over. Neither has the ability to consistently pose any threat down the field. Sure, they can make a throw here. They can make a throw there. But you ain't going to be scared of these guys. Let's just put it that way. And once again, I think with a lot of these things, I'm being nice. Both these guys have combined for 9 interceptions this season, but right now it appears Hunter Simmons is the guy maybe going forward, and Danny O'Neal might get some. We saw him get him sometime during the Ohio State game. It's just a very odd situation at quarterback, but neither guy is going to be an average quarterback at the very least. They're all below average or worse. And here's the thing about Wisconsin's offense. Like, they've got decent pass catchers. Like, if you had a quarterback that could deliver the ball down the field consistently, you might have an offense that might be able to move it through the air. Like, you got Vinny Anthony, who's been a deep threat on this team for the last few years. Jaden Ballard from Ohio State. Lance Mason is a good transfer tight end they got this year. Trech Kekahuna coming out of the slot. Like, altogether, those guys are averaging over 14 yards per catch this season. But you got to say it again. If you don't have a quarterback that can get them the football, you're going to have problems. And if you can't balance out your offense with the run game, you're going to have some problems offensively. And that's why Wisconsin is at the bottom of college football in their offensive production. Now, there's been a lot of negativity, and there's not a lot of good things to say about this Wisconsin team, but I am going to inform you about the lone bright spot, and that is the run defense. They are allowing under 100 yards, 97.6 per game specifically on the ground. That is good enough for 6th in the Big Ten, and they are a top 20 run defense in all of college football. They've got some size up front of the defensive line. Ben Barton is 330. He made some plays against Ohio State. You got Brandon Lane over there at 322 pounds. Mason Reiger coming off the edge. He can shed blocks and make some plays. 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. Although this is not a team that's going to really strike any fear in you in terms of pressuring the passer, even though they did do a pretty good job at getting into the backfield, maybe against the run against Ohio State, but not certainly against the pass. More on that. That was 5 tackles for loss against the Buckeyes in that game. Like, they were winning battles on the other side of the line of scrimmage. They limited the Ohio State run game to under 100 yards, 3.5 yards per carry. At the linebacker level, Christian Allegro is a tough linebacker. He's a smart linebacker. He can get to the football fairly quickly. He leads the team in tackles with 44. Former USC Trojan Tackett Curtis is another guy to be able to watch out for. They really like their true freshman Mason Poza, who's kind of like an outside linebacker type that really saw more of the field against Ohio State. But here's the fact of the matter: is for as good as maybe the run defense is, the secondary is just bad. It is bad. They just cannot keep up. I mentioned the Preston Zachman injury. Ricardo Hallman is a corner that they have that had like 6 interceptions in 2023. And he was an all Big Ten player. But since then, he just hasn't been the same player for whatever reason. So here are some numbers that's worth illustrating, and I think it illustrates the point of where Wisconsin is at from a pass defense standpoint. Julian Sayin last week threw for 393 yards and 4 scores. Ty Simpson at Alabama threw for 382 yards and 4 touchdowns. True freshman Bryce Underwood threw for 270. Malik Washington threw for 265 and 2 touchdowns. Folks, they cannot defend the pass. This is a similar type of unit. They're going to miss some coverages. They're going to give up bigger plays. Maybe not quite to the level of Rutgers, but if they're above them, they're above them slightly. They've allowed 67 plays of 10-plus yards. Now, 10 might not seem that much, but if you can consistently get 12, 14, 15, cut, remember against Penn State, cut, jugular. And that's what some of these teams have done against the Wisconsin passing defense. They're 107th in the country, by the way, in allowing 10-plus yards. Only Illinois and Rutgers have allowed more in the Big Ten this season. So overall, this is a very underdeveloped team. They've tried to recoup in the transfer portal, and it just hasn't gone very well. They haven't been able to develop their recruited talent in the time that Luke Fickell has been there. It's certainly a different time in Madison, Wisconsin. It's certainly a sad state of affairs in Madison, Wisconsin. All right, now that you know that, let's try to smile a little bit. Now you know the foe. Let's take a look at how the Quack can attack the Badgers on Saturday night. Wisconsin comes into the zoo to take on the 6th-ranked Oregon Ducks. They are 31.5-point favorites. The over-under 44.5. The big question, will Oregon get the over all by themselves? 4 p.m. Pacific time on FS1. Now, the main thing that people are going to talk about, Oregon's really, really good. Wisconsin's really, really bad. And I know that's very obvious, and a lot of people probably aren't going to spend a lot of time talking about this game, but I really want to highlight one thing right off the bat. I talked about the strength of Wisconsin in my scouting report, and I'm very curious to see how Will Stein is going to attack that, or is he just going to choose to not attack Wisconsin's run defense? Oregon is coming off their best run blocking performance of the season last week against Rutgers. We get it. It's Rutgers. They're as bad as it gets defensively at the Power 2 level. They ran the ball 415 yards, and they went over a first down every carry, 11.2 yards per carry. Now, is Will Stein going to look at this run defense, and then you also look at the pass defense? It's like, dude, we could throw it every down, and we could get out of this thing up 42-0 at halftime, and then let's just coast to the rest of the way. Right? Is he going to avoid the roadblock, or is he going to challenge and go through the roadblock? That's something that I'm very interested in, to see exactly how Will Stein dials it up early and often, because there are plenty of opportunities to attack this Wisconsin defense through the secondary, considering the matchups that Oregon has. More on that in just a moment. But I kind of would like to see him attack. I would love to see how Oregon is going to be able to follow up on their performance last week and just see how good this run offense can be, how much they're progressing against a run defense that has been really good. So I know Oregon can air it out for 400 yards. I know what Oregon can do through the air. I just like, in the one area for Wisconsin is good, I just would like to see how Oregon is able to stack up against it and how they call this run game. So Jaden Lamar is going to be out yet again. It's going to be Noah Whittington. It's going to be Jordan Davison. It's going to be De'Aaron Hill. I would love to see more of Jordan Davison more consistently, I think, throughout. Like, early in the season, he was very much a goal line short yardage back. Now he's receiving a much more diverse role in this offense. We know what De'Aaron Hill can consistently do. We know what Noah Whittington can consistently do. I want to see Noah. Let's get Jordan Davis. He only got 3 carries last week. Now, he made the most of them. Honorable mention, Holy Walawa, by the way. But I would like to see Jordan Davison. Get him like 10 carries. Get him 12 carries in this game, just to see exactly what he can do. Let's talk about this passing game. I mean, they are destined to have their biggest and brightest day of the year. I know that they had a pretty good one earlier this season against Oklahoma State, but Wisconsin is not athletic. They are not disciplined enough on the defensive in the defensive backfield to contain the weapons. I mean, Oregon, what they have at their disposal with Benson, with Moore, with Bryant, with McClellan, with Sadiq, they just can't cover him. Plain and simple. I mean, I watched back some of this film against Ohio State, some of this film against Alabama. It's just, they were lost. They were lost in the back end of the defense. And the way Will Stein can creatively kind of set up certain plays and I think that's what we're going to see, is Will Stein is going to follow the script. He's going to try to set up some big passing plays early to get some points on the board. Dude, go downfield. The Ducks are second in the country in plays of 20-plus yards this season. I think they're going to have a huge advantage going down the field, and I think they're going to be able to take advantage of that. Will they continue where they left off, targeting Kenyon Sadiq? That's another thing that I've got my eye on in this game. There were some texters and commenters on the TSOW Talking Text line that said, hey, let's get Kenyon Sadiq the ball a little bit more. Let's get him out in the open field a little bit more, which is crazy. He's still, top 3, I think, in the team in catches right now. Like, he's still getting a lot of targets, but we know Will Stein likes to feed the studs. We know that they like to spread the ball around. I would like to see this be an opportunity to have Kenyon he had 4 catches last week. Let's try to replicate that maybe once again. Now, when you have a matchup like this where you are so supremely talented compared to the other team, I think that this is an opportunity to do new things. I think that this is an opportunity to get guys, especially early when the game is still halfway competitive, get them into situations where they can learn and maybe test out different formations, test out different play concepts. Because this is, and I know this coaching staff is really smart. They're one of the smartest coaching staffs in the entire country. This is a great opportunity. If you miss on a concept, if you miss out on a play, it's not going to cost you the game. All right, so get new guys. Let's line up De'Aaron Hill a little bit more on the outside. I know we've seen him a little bit more in the backfield. We saw him lined out wide to kind of start this season. Let's get Kenyon Sadiq in the backfield. Let's kind of just do different things to see what works and what doesn't a little bit later on down the road as well. And maybe where there's some questions, and maybe like the rotation and the depth, see what you have from a rotational and a depth standpoint by getting some of these guys more snaps in a game like this. I think it's the Walmart attitude. Get in, get out, get on with your life. Get in, get out, stay healthy. That's got to be it. If I'm Oregon in this game, I want to get up. I want to get up early, and I want to get up big, because I think, kind of like jumping off of that last point, it's a great opportunity to get a lot of these young guys in this game and get playing reps. One thing that's different about this year as opposed to last year, you're having a lot more garbage time. Last year, it was just like teetering on the edge of like 4 touchdown lead, 5 touchdown lead, and they just couldn't quite get to that point. This year, you're seeing a lot more time. That gives these younger guys that are second, third, fourth team guys, they get that game experience and allows them to develop and kind of learn some things between the lines in a football game. So that's got to be it. That's got to be it. Get to the bye week with no major injuries. Take care of this game in the first half and get on with your life. All right, it is prediction time, folks. Until proven otherwise, I cannot predict Wisconsin to score a single point. That's how little faith in them I have offensively. And Oregon is a top 10 defensive unit in all of college football. They're an extremely deep unit. I think Oregon is going to get out to a fast start. I think they're going to take care of business. I think they're going to get up big in the first half. I could see it being like 31-0 at the break, and then they just kind of coast the rest of the way. What do we see from a backup quarterback standpoint? A lot was made. Brock Thomas. Dan Lanning said, hey, Brock Thomas has earned this opportunity. I'm not sure if you could convince me that if Dante Moore weren't available, that it would be Brock Thomas playing instead of somebody like Austin Novosad or even Luke Moga. But props to the guy for getting in there. We'll see what he can do, maybe if he gets his opportunity. So it seems like a hot start, and then you coast like you're going down the Oregon coast, like you're going down the 101 or whatever it is out there. Got my ones confused, but you get the general idea. 101, because the 1 is down in California. But you get the general idea of what I'm trying to say. It's going to be all Ducks in this one. I've got 41-0 in favor of Oregon. They're going to get the win, and they're going to keep it rolling on Saturday night. Another fun edition of TSOW is in the books. I will be back for the post-game show following this one. I've got a high school football game to cover at 1 o'clock in the afternoon Central Time. The game starts at 6 Central Time, so I'll be back for the start of this game. Maybe barely, but I'll be there, and then we'll have the post-game show, and I'll have my written recap over on Scoop Duck as well. All right, folks. Until next time, I'm Ted LaRue. This has been That Show Out West.